Hey, church family, it's James here. We are reading through the Psalms together. Today is day 6, which means it's Psalm 6, a psalm that shows us what to do with our worries. Let's read it together. Psalm 6, to the choir master, with stringed instruments, according to the Sheminith, a psalm of David. O Lord, rebuke me not in your anger, nor discipline me in your wrath. Be gracious to me, O Lord, for I am languishing. Heal me, O Lord, for my bones are troubled. My soul also is greatly troubled, but you, O Lord, how long? Turn, O Lord, deliver my life. Save me for the sake of your steadfast love, for in death there is no remembrance of you. In Sheol, who will give you praise? I am weary with my moaning. Every night I flood my bed with tears. I drench my couch with my weeping. My eye wastes away because of grief. It grows weak because of all my foes. Depart from me, all you workers of evil, for the Lord has heard the sound of my weeping. The Lord has heard my plea. The Lord accepts my prayer. All my enemies shall be ashamed and greatly troubled. They shall turn back and be put to shame in a moment. It's often said that the Psalms display the full range of human emotions, and we see a powerful example of this, don't we? In Psalm 6. David is deeply troubled, and look, he doesn't try to hide it. He tells us that he is languishing in verse 2. He tells us that his bones are troubled. He tells us, look, his soul is also troubled. He tells us that he is, look at verse 6, weary with the amount of moaning that he has been doing. He has been flooding his bed with tears. He has been drenching his couch with weeping. He's cried so much that his eyes have started to waste away because of grief. He's in deep pain and he doesn't try to hide it. Of course, he hasn't lost sight of God. Look, verse 4, he remembers God's steadfast love. Or if we skip ahead to the end of the psalm, verse 9, he still knows that God hears and answers his prayers, but he doesn't think that God's love and attention should somehow magically take all of his pain away. That will happen one day in heaven, but that day is not today. There are some things in our world that are not as they're meant to be, and it's right for us to grieve them. Perhaps that's a good word for us today. In the midst of fear, anxiety, worry, pain, the solution isn't to try and hide it, isn't to deny it, isn't to stuff it. Instead, it's better for us to talk about it. I wonder what it would look like for us to follow David's example, for us to make a list of those things that we are experiencing. The things that are brewing in our hearts, perhaps being worried about our own health, perhaps grieving the loss of loved ones, perhaps being concerned about our finances, or kids, maybe you're bummed about all the fun things that have been cancelled. If you were to write a list like David, what would that list look like? And with that list in hand, writing that list out like David does in this psalm, we can then practice taking these things to God, taking these things to Him. When we do this, when we don't try and deny our pain or deny our suffering, but instead create a little space for it, write it down, bring it to the Lord, we find that the very act of sharing with Him helps. Our relationship with Him deepens because we're being honest with Him. The painful emotions we're experiencing don't consume us. We find we're actually able to hold them. In these uncertain times, it's okay to be down. There are things in our world that are not as they're meant to be, and it's right for us to grieve them. What do? We search our hearts and we pour them out before our God. Psalm 6, be gracious to me, O Lord, for I am languishing.